Either Army football and Service Academy football in general is done, or we're about to see an absolute revolution at the service academies. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football, back at it again. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things college football, pro football, Madden, EA college football, NFL draft, anything related to American football, hit that red subscribe button. You'll not be disappointed. Also, hit the like button too. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, there was an article that came out that is, I cannot tell, and I need your help with me on this one, because either Army football and Service Academy football in general is done, or we're about to see an absolute revolution at the service academies. I say that because there's an article that came out here on The Athletic, and we're not going to go into The Athletic, that is a paid subscription. We are going to see some Twitter posts from Stuart Mandel talking about it, because there is a lot of change, in case you hadn't checked into it, in the service academies here, and it includes Todd Monk, and head coach at Army, because he's changing the offense. Here we are with Stuart Mandel on his Twitter profile, and he says, from Army in the shotgun, why Jeff Monken is changing how triple offense is played. He says, because of an NCAA rule change restricting cut blocking, Army of all teams is moving to a shotgun offense this season. Are we nearing the end of the triple option? And here is a quote that he includes here on Twitter as well. It says, Army coach Jeff Monken has been running an under-center triple option for 26 years. He's scrapping it this spring due to NCAA rules restricting cut blocks. The rules committee insists it has data showing injury risks. Option coaches aren't buying it. We go down here to the quote here from Paul Johnson. So it says, I was on the rules committee, and when I was coaching, it was a constant battle. Then they say it's to reduce injuries, but they don't have any stats to back it up. I think a lot of people just don't want to play against it. Now, me being a good old Boise State fan here, I definitely understand playing Air Force for some whatever weird reason. And again, most teams have this. You play good against a lot of teams here, but there are certain teams that you just don't match up well against. For some reason, that triple option, the cut blocks, always gave Boise State just hell. And that is what's going on with most of these teams out there. So again, the rules committee, whatever's going on there, there's a cabal of people that don't actually want to have the triple option, whatever it is. It looks like Air Force, Army, and Navy are all probably going to be switching and or doing some things here up in the near future. Army already has. Air Force is kind of sitting pretty now. However, they do lose most of their players from this last season. And then Navy just got rid of Kenya Machalolo. So there's lots of kind of movement after this, because we have to remember here, although this rule was going into effect, it actually went into effect last season. So we come over here, and this was from March 4th of 2022. We see NCAA moving to ban cut blocks outside the tackle box. The NCAA Football Rules Committee on Friday moved to ban all below-the-waist blocking outside the tackle box. Furthermore, any player who is not a lineman or a stationary back inside the tackle box will be prohibited from throwing cut blocks, period. The committee cited the data showing the passing rule would cut down on the number of knee injuries suffered over the course of the season. This proposal is a continuation of the committee's effort to enhance student-athlete safety, said Zishaw, Secretary Rules Editor. So for whatever reason, they decided to do that. And again, some people say it's legit, some people say it's not. However, you can see the fact that there was definitely what's the term I want to see here? A sizable difference in how the Service Academy teams did compared to the previous seasons. Let's go into that. So we come over here to the Black Knights in 2022, and again, they were 6-6, did not go to a bowl game, and they were an overtime game against Navy away from having a losing record. In addition to that, checking in on Navy went 4-8. They did not have the season they wanted to have. Again, they had two overtime wins of their 4 wins, so not a great season there. And then we check at Air Force, who actually did pretty good. Now, Air Force did really good. However, we have to remember here, I'm interested to see what's going to happen to Air Force this next season, because Zeke Daniels, Brad Roberts, they lose a lot of production from this last season. And again, they went 10-3, but man, I'm just interested to see what's going to happen there, because, like I said, you see head coach at Navy no longer there. Head coach at Army scrapping the offense completely, going to a shotgun-based offense, something that he hasn't done in 26 years. And then Air Force out here has to replace everybody. I'm really interested to see what happens to them at the end of this next season, because if they have issues there, we might see a complete transformation amongst the Service Academy teams. Now, you hear the list there that they're going towards a shotgun-based offense. So I have multiple different things here that multiple ideas that are kind of bouncing around my brain. First of all, for those of you who don't know about the service academies, they can't recruit 325-pound guys. Most teams actually can't recruit 325-pound guys. However, for most of the football teams, just because of the service academy requirements, they can't weigh more than 255 pounds. That's what the Air Force has their requirement on. Not 100% sure with Army and with Navy, but for the most part, it's hard to recruit big linemen. So what you would do in that instance is you would have an adjustment around that. You would have a lot of cut blocking, you'd have some spread out there, you'd run the triple option exclusively. Nobody else really runs a triple option other than those three teams. You can see it in their running game statistics. So we come over here in 2022 and the leading rushing yards per games teams. So we have Air Force 1, Army 2, and then Ole Miss was 3. And again, I love me some Ole Miss. Their offense was crazy. And then Navy was 4, and then Michigan was 5. So it's Ole Miss and Michigan, two of the best, offenses in the country, and then 3 service academies, because that's usually how it operates. Now, with conference realignment, there's a lot of talk out there like, man, does it make sense for the G5 to keep playing? Should they a lot of these schools don't actually make any money. There's a huge discrepancy between the G5 and the P5. What do we want to do here? There's lots of, lower level teams that are dropping their football program. Does it make sense that now that this new cut block situation is in effect and it's really starting to affect the service academies, does it make sense to even play anymore? I think that that's a long-term play that we'll have to see how it plays out. However, I will say that is under the understanding that they only know how to run that offense. There is another offense out there that I think would work good for them. And I actually want to go to, surprisingly, a random Reddit article that kind of articulates what we're talking about here. So this is from reddit.com r/football strategy. So this guy's talking about going from a D2 team to a club football team at a smaller school here. And he says, yeah, the only issue here is we have really, really small offensive linemen. What are we going to do in that instance? You come down here and see some of the insights here. And it says, with a weak O-line that struggles in pass pro, air raid might be your best bet. Short timing routes will be your friend if you're under duress each down. I'd be concerned about their ability to get in front and block for certain screenplays, but that's where you can roll out and incorporate some spread elements into the playbook. Could it be that Army, who is previously an under-the-center triple option team, going towards the shotgun this next season, could eventually go from shotgun to like shotgun option, things like that, to potentially an air raid playbook? This was an awesome article. I'm going to include this in the description. Please check it out from libertygridiron.wordpress.com. The modern wishbone, the air raid, and an ode to wide line splits. I want to make sure I can bring this down because it's amazing here. So it says the triple option teams are mostly in a situation where they're going to be, hand in the dirt going from there. However, air raid linemen are almost always relatively upright in 2-point stands with really, really wide splits. You see these giant splits in between here. They talk about that here. It says the big gaps between the linemen made the quarterback seem more vulnerable. The great author Michael Lewis wrote in a New York Times article about Leach's Texas Tech offense in 2005. Some defenders could seemingly run right between the blockers, but he wasn't. Stretching out the defensive line stretched out the defensive line too, forcing the most ferocious passers several yards farther from the quarterback. It also opened up a wide passing lanes through which even a short quarterback could see the whole field clearly. We come down here and we check it out that because this breaks down in a lot of different ways here because it negates a lot of things. Stunts and blitzes, which involved gap exchanges, were mostly futile against the Red Raiders and the Cougars' wide line splits because they took more time to execute. Defenses were forced into more vanilla game plans. Excuse the cliche, but playing defense against an air raid offensive line is the most literal sense boils down to winning one-on-one matchups. That's just how Leach likes it. And I use this as an example too. So this right here, look at these insane splits here. Now, this was Corona Centennial versus IMG. Corona Centennial is a really good team. IMG is one of the best teams in the country. Check this out. So they're going to read option this defensive tackle right here. Look at these ridiculous splits. Now, you would think that they would just put a defensive lineman here, defensive lineman here, defensive lineman here, and defensive lineman here. However, with the really good screen games, you're able to run off of these plays. You really wouldn't do that because this guy rushes over here, running offensive lineman takes off, offensive lineman takes off, and then you have a screen over here that will negate these guys. So you have to be careful with that. You typically have to line up outside, take your man on your man. However, check this out. Look at how wide these splits are. They're going to let this guard is going to let this guy go to the backer back here. There's going to be a giant lane. And again, this is something you can do. Boom, right up the field. Huge gain against IMG Academy, one of the best teams in the country. But again, I'm telling you right now, that is something that you would have to do. What it might be interesting to see what happens here with Air Force or with Army, because man, I mean, we're going to see some more ingenuity because of limitations based on rules. So when you think about Army right now, okay, used to run the veer, no more cut blocking outside the tackle box, really hurts their ability. Now Todd Monken's taking his team, putting them in the shotgun and running more things, situations there. I think, do not be surprised if Army at some point institutes air raid concepts. You don't need very big receivers. You can spread out your offensive line. They don't need to be mashers. You have your quarterback doesn't have to be tall. There's lots of things that work in their favor. And again, it still works with the fact that, the service academies can't recruit big offensive linemen, but they don't have to block that much. They get out on screens. They're really fast because they're typically a little bit, smaller in size. So I think it's a crazy innovation. I'm really interested to see what Army does. Would not be surprised if Navy and Air Force follow suit eventually. Could we see the flex bone and the triple option teams all become air raid teams? Don't be surprised if it happens, man. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys later. I am out.